Do you have any favourite tracks? What stands out to you?
Choosing amongst your children. It's who's your favourite child? It's awful, isn't it? I think I had a little think, and I do think Low Orbit.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, do you know what I should have done before that? I should have put my guess on what you thought your favourite track was. But I wouldn't have said
like Mr. and Mrs. I could have sat with headphones on while you.
I wouldn't have thought that Low Orbit. I love that Low Orbit track. Yeah. Absolutely love that Low Orbit track. It was a difficult one to mix.
Right.
To certain elements of it. There was a lot of drum bleed into your flute mic.
Right.
Which, just whatever, I just had to sort of mess with that a lot. But yeah, when everything's kicking in with that, because I think it was you that pushed, it was you that kind of said, this needs that treatment. Or that,
I was kind of wanted it to be a little bit more driven because we recorded it all in the room together. There was quite a soft sound on the mic.
Yeah.
Because we'd played in a very sort of acoustic environment.
Yeah.
And I did feel that we needed just a bit more compression on the flute, a bit more of a kind of squash to give it a bit more kind of. The distortion brings out the high end a little bit. Not that it's distorted, but kind of just a kind of
harmonic distortion.
Harmonic distortion, yeah. And the clever use of reverbs to get the shape of the room better. Because, like you said, we've got very low ceiling.
Yeah.
And literally, the microphone was above my head as well.
Yeah,
so like literally less than like half a meter from the roof. So kind of backtracking a little bit on the recording process to get a different sound is difficult sometimes, isn't it? But yeah, and just sort of generally, just not because obviously I mix as well. I do my own stuff. I'm not, but obviously I know flute sounds really well.
Absolutely.
And so it was just that trying to describe what I could hear without sort of putting too much of a oar in.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Giving you a little bit of help rather than sort of saying, trying to sort of befuddle you with too much technical mumbo jumbo because I know you hear things pretty clearly anyway. But it was, and also not wanting to be that guy, like kind of, what do you think about the mix? The flute sound.
The worst thing ever is sending somebody a mix. Like I try and preempt people now on the sort of like, do you know what? Comments are brilliant. I've got a mate who will always just say, something that there's just no way you can change now. It's way too far down the line, and they'll kind of go, oh, it should really needs a B. But the thing that annoys you the most is that nagging knowledge that they're right.
I always ask you how far you run in the process.
I know, and I know why you're doing that. I don't
want to be that sort of like,
And that's so helpful because it's knowing that, right. And the other thing is, like my partner, she says this to me all the time, if you ask for an opinion, you're going to get one. Yeah. So it's like, be careful what you're asking for, and it's kind of like, so a lot of the times I'm really open to that. I kind of like a punch to the gut, if you know what I mean. I'm kind of like, no, like, because it's going to make you better.
Yeah.
Like, listen to what people are saying and what they're hearing, especially people's ears who you respect, people who know what they're talking about. But what I love about that tune is how it came to life with all the brass and the baritone.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I mean, it's just so, I just love it. It's that kind of, it's kind of, for me, it kind of sums up the album sound that I was enjoying, that kind of, that rich, spiritual, dark, it's sort of elegant, but dark and textual stuff and like surprising as well.
He did so much with not so little material, but it's just a riff.
But that's what, for me, that's what people always ask me what they think spiritual jazz is, because I think it gets used very broadly, which I'm fine with as well. And of course, for me, it's always that it's that element of like, it's not always complicated music. It is based on
space plus time.
Yeah, exactly. And lots of rhythm and percussion.
Yeah.
And lots of room for people to express themselves and however they feel fit.
Yeah.
Which is not a sort of harmonic thing, more of a kind of emotional sort of side of playing, isn't it? And that track has that in it. It's got all that space and that kind of, okay, how do we take this really simple thing and have a moment?
Yeah.
You know, and that for me is a spiritual thing, you know, it's
Yeah.
that kind of like everybody working together to achieve something bigger than the parts, you know.
And we got it. We again, we, like, without knowing where that was going to go, you know, the foundation of it was just rock solid, you know, in the arrangement, and like before even knowing that horns were going to go on it. But there was specifically one thing that I wanted to happen, and I don't know if it does happen, is I really like it. I think I've taken it from Cannonball Adderley tune, but it's like when something's as slow as that, and then when a chorus or sorry, when a solo drops, just 16s on a tambourine come in, you know, just all of a sudden it just starts kind of chopping away. Yeah. But again, also on that track, another person who just did those kind of like incredible off the cuff was Richard, you know, Ormrod from the Sorcerers, like another guy who plays everything. I was kind of like, this really needs some vibes, this track. And he plays some of the most perfect vibes chords in that track. There's one where it just goes, gong, you know, just in the perfect space. Yeah. And it just sounds so good. It really does. But yeah, that is a good tune, that one. I don't know what my favourite tune is.
Well, I was about to say, you know, what was your favourite? Come on, commit.
Yeah, commit. They always kind of, like, I struggle with favourites anyway. You know, I'm quite annoying like that. I can't pick. I don't, you know, it's just whatever I'm interested in at the time, rather than like these
politician's
ongoing...
answer. Come on, which one?
It's a really hard question, because again, for different reasons. Like, you could take the opening track.
Mm-hmm. True, which we've both already mentioned as being...
Yeah, and also I like the fact that you pushed for that to be the opening track. I didn't even have an opinion at that point, but you're like, that's the opening track. Make that the opening track of the album.
I just think with this kind of album, it's really important that people get the idea that it's something different straight away, and there's something important going on. Do you know what I mean? It would be a shame to sort of build up to that track when really, for all the way down the line, that was the track that was like, okay, this is something else. And I wanted that feeling from the first drop of the needle. That the first song's really important on an album. Like when I put on albums, I love the fact that my favourite track is the first one, because you put an album on, it sets your mood straight away, what you're listening to, and then you get on with what you're doing. And it's that really is, and I think for this one, it was always like, well, okay, this was always the mood track for us. It was always that track that's like, okay.
It could be Molecules, which is my favourite, not because it broke, because I listen to it, like, when you're mixing these things, I've kind of worked out time-wise, you know, it usually takes me 4 hours to get the track into, like, what you can see here. Mm-hmm. You know, sort of like I've kind of got the levels, I've looked at any EQing things, and that's usually the point where it's like I'm ready to commit to the thing. Now, what I've realised, which is really irritating, is, say I get to that 4 hours, because now I'm...
For those of you who are just listening, we're pointing at a mixing desk right away. Yeah. By the way, right now.
I've now started to put a limit on the time that I mix, because I can get really absorbed and then 10 hours have gone by.
Does that work, or are you being...
It does kind of work. I know when it gets...
What is the limit, out of interest?
Time-wise?
Yeah.
I can't do more than 10 hours. My ears get really, you know...
I thought you were going to say like 1, 2 hours, not 10.
I've been here all...
A quick 10 hours and then that's it. No more, come on.
But now I'm sticking to 4. I'm kind of like, anything beyond 4, I'm off.
Yeah,
because it's not healthy, right?
Well, you start making bad decisions, don't you? That's the trouble. And then you come back. It's the comeback in the morning when you listen to it the next day, and it's just kind of like, what was I thinking?
So what I've realised is that if I do the 4 hours and come back in, obviously I've got a really good starting point, you know. Yeah. But it still takes me a couple of hours to kind of like ramp up the courage to kind of like, because see this bit of tape here. Somebody made a really good comment. They said that is an amazingly effective brick wall limiter. You know, like a thing that... So basically what that is, I've got marks on the tape that I can eyeball that are basically the points where Sam's going 1, 2, you know, and I've marked exactly the point where he plays his last stick mark, and I fade in from there. And it took me ages, loads of albums to work this out. But it's kind of like, if you don't have that there, if you put that there, I can basically fade in without worrying.
Yeah. For those of you that were just listening, he's got the master faders have got a big piece of tape at the very top. So as far as you push up the faders, it stops at some point.
And I
so
know
he
that,
knows his skill.
so I change where that piece of tape is depending on what is on the meters of the 2-track machine.
Right, okay.
So depending on how, active
Simple
the track
but smart,
is.
I like it. Yeah.
And then, but it takes me a bit of courage to kind of get myself back into that headspace to be like completely absorbed in the track, to do all the movements and the things.
Well, yeah, for those of you that have never mixed in an analog sense, you've got movements. You don't just set all the buttons, the faders across the top of the mixing desk.
Yeah.
What you're doing is, as things are going along, you're going, okay, so on channel 3, about 2 minutes into the song, I've got to bring that down a little bit.
Yeah.
While channel 7 goes up a little bit, and then and it's like this little dance of your fingers across where you're bringing things up and down.
And that's why I've got multiple marks.
It's got white tape down the side of things with little pen dots.
Yeah.
So you bringing the fader down to the first dot, up to back up to the second one, and so it's like a dance, isn't it?
Yeah. So I memorise it all just by doing it over
people
and
don't
over.
understand the process. Isn't just like when I've got it how I want, I just press record on it and it records and that's it. It's like all those you've got those little movements of the faders that you need to get everything in certain sections to where it needs to be hit. You need to hear something louder at certain points and quieter at other points, where people maybe don't realise.
Yeah.
It all has to be physically done by you while it's going down on tape in real time.
And I don't write it out either. Like it's like I don't have bar numbers or anything. It's like it's all in my head.
Yeah,
so that's the best way that I kind of. And you start to kind of like in a track like that. There's the flute, for example. You'll kind of be like, okay, this is where the flute feels right. So you got like a kind of mean average or something. That's where that mark is. And I'm kind of like, okay, either
the mark above it is like, if you feel like you need a little bit more, don't go beyond this point. Or a little bit less, don't go below that.
Yeah,
point.
or at certain points, it's like, maybe you've hit a really low note, so I want it to come up. So, that's the marker for that. There was one that looks horrendous like that. Yeah. I remember it took me about 2 days to kind of go, oh, wait a minute, I should just re-record the bassoon part on another channel, getting all the levels right.
So you've done all that automation, as it were.
Yeah, so physically I do that. Yeah. But this is a long way round to just saying sometimes I've listened to the tunes maybe 100 times, by the time, I don't know, maybe that's too much, but a lot of,
Yeah.
So...
Way more than you should have.
Exactly. And you start to really know the solos and the way people are playing.
Yeah. But it's an organic process, isn't it?
Yeah.
The mix is actually the final performance, isn't it?
Yeah. I never thought of that.
I don't know.
So on Molecules, there's all these lovely moments of kind of people doing things that I really like about the piece. So that might be why that, like we've got that, the alto flute and you doubled the lines on that. So you have these really lovely sort of parallel sort of lines coming in from the two. Then John does a lot of kind of like hold in place. I was going to say tread in water, but like hold in place is a better way of putting it, because he doesn't quite go
like
into
vamping,
it.
Isn't
he
he?
doesn't quite go into any solo. There's a lot of space to that. But then you come in with flute lines, and then throughout the recording, I'll often have favourite moments rather than favourite tracks. And every time I hear it, I go, oh. Alice, I think John does something. Have you ever seen the film Kung Fu Hustle?
Tangent. No, I haven't, but I obviously need
Kung Fu Hustle's a brilliant film. But in Kung Fu Hustle, there's two assassins who are these blind musicians, right? They're both blind, and they have a koto, like a Japanese koto, a big koto that they use to kind of like shoot,
as you do,
stuff.
Yeah.
And I said to Alice, I played Alice because the way they kind of, whenever they do a striking action, there's a lot of kung, from the koto. And I was kind of like, I know it's going to sound daft, but have you ever seen Kung Fu Hustle? That's how I started that way. But I showed her the thing. So there's a few lines, so obviously, I don't know her work very well, but since working with her, I followed her Instagram, I've seen some things that she's been doing. It's like, wow, she knows, you know, she was doing a world music thing, which is a coda piece with somebody that I saw recently. I was like, bloody hell, you know, she's really well-travelled musically. So anyway, she straight away had some of those kind of like little devices.
Right.
And she plays this line that just goes, digga, 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 on one note. Digga, 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 digga. And it's so kind of just like, you know, sort of ninja kind of like digga, you know, atmosphere. So that track has all these different elements of things that happen within it that I'm like, maybe that's my favourite.
There you are. You got there.
I'm going to say that. I'm going to say Molecules is my favourite.
There you are. You saved it to the end of the album.
Yeah. Yeah, saved it to the end of the album.
It's always good. I always think it's nice to have like a favourite track at the end of an album.
Yeah, I like putting weird things at the end. Like I usually put a big track at the end that almost doesn't sound the same as the album.
Right.
So it's almost like a indication of what might be coming next.
Yeah.
I often find. So I've done that a few times where it's like, the fuck?
This is like part 2. We've got a glimpse into the next bit.
Yeah. But that's not that. But it's definitely that was a really good one. But
I think it's just a prize for people that actually listen all the way to the end of an album.
yeah, well done. Got to the end.
Don't just listen to the first 3 tracks and then skip on.
Or if anyone listens to an album twice, you know, you're just like, wow, I've done something there.
Yeah.
You know, so that's definitely my favourites. But, you know, I also, the opening track is side A, you know, the Axelrod Kármán Line. What's it called? Let's do better. I'm going to do better than this.
Yeah.
Kármán Cantata. I hope I've said that right.
Cantata.
That's been spelt wrong by the mastering engineer.
Okay.
Or me, one of the two.
Well, the Kármán Line, isn't it? That's the whole concept.
It's a great title. Our art guy came up with that because I explained to him that, like, the idea of the Outer Worlds Jazz Ensemble for me is it's a place for tracks that didn't belong to any other project was part of it. And then it was also for a kind of jazz that maybe just fell in the cracks slightly, but maybe a lot of I do falls in the cracks slightly.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was the Outer Worlds is like, as a label or even as a musician, I've always kind of felt a bit on the outside of things. Yeah. And I quite like that. You know, it's like
between worlds. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know quite, you know, I'm never first pick for the football team, you know, sort of thing. And that's, you know, I'm fine. Fine with that. Yeah. But that's the whole idea of it as well. So I wanted a name that I could put these like slightly, like not 70, like the initial idea was that 45 that we did. That was the first track.
Yes.
You know, that's what led to to this name. But it's that kind of like late 50s, early 60s. I don't think it's the best name for it, but like exotica kind of pulp jazz.
Yes.
You know.
Nice.
It's good. It's kind of that kind of stuff where you're drawing on a lot of these new world musics that people were finding out about.
Yes.
You know, at that time.
Yeah.
And for good or bad, interpreting. You know, sometimes it was bad. You know, sometimes
Often,
it was, you know, really well interpreted. Or the other side of it is actually how other countries have interpreted Western music. It's a bit of a snake eating itself, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, but that's what I like about Ethio Jazz.
Yeah.
It's just like they took soul, R&B, jazz, and Cuban music, absorbed it, and then just spat out this incredible form of new music called Ethio Jazz, which is almost untouchable in its kind of like the likes of you and I didn't grow up in New York, but we can listen to jazz and kind of go, yeah, okay, I can get this, and it's not so exclusive that you can't find an inroad. But if you want to front an Ethio Jazz band, you know, it's going to be pretty difficult. You know, it's like, you know, so it's kind of like how things are interpreted. It's what I really like, and that's why I called it the Outer Worlds Jazz Ensemble. So I explained that to James, who's just incredible, sort of working with James, and he's so thoughtful in in everything. So he came back with all these. He came back. Oh, have you heard of the Kármán Line? And I was like, oh, what's that? He says, oh, that's the point where the atmosphere, the exact point the atmosphere becomes space. That line.
Which is brilliant.
And it really felt.
It's like that point between consciousness and unconsciousness where you
Yes.
know, like when you're falling asleep and you suddenly get a great idea for a song or something.
And these tracks,
love that concept.
they just sort of fell somewhere else.
Yeah.
They didn't fall in that Lewis Express kind of
No, it's got its own...
even orbit.
Yeah.
Felt slightly outside of it. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's brilliant. So that's how we came up with the title. And it's good because I get a bit worn out trying to come up with titles. Like Richard's really good with song titles and things.
Well, you do pretty well.
Yeah, and I
I'm
enjoy doing.
always massively impressed by your ability to sort of come up with wonderful kind of really punchy little titles. I really like your title work. So
Excellent, thank you very much.
Don't underestimate.
I had to take a break though, and Richard, he came up with most of the last two source. No, the I Too Am a Stranger. He came up with all of that. Loads of the library archive stuff. He's just like, he just pineapple diode daiquiri. That was one of it. I'm just like,
okay,
perfect.
That's good.
really. He's really well sort of read guy. So he kind of just like it just rolls off the tongue with him. Especially the library stuff. But yeah, I was done in. I couldn't come up with any more titles for such a long time. But did with these, thankfully. So I'm back on it. I also like the up-tempo jazz one, the 6/8 one.
Which is what all is.
No, that's track 2, Alto Verde.
Alto Vento.
Alto Vento, thank you. See, is this bad that I don't know the titles of my own album?
Well, it's, you have to practice them like the
I know.
bass lines.
Jesus
play
Christ.
them live, you'll have to practice the names more than the music.
That one was wonderful though, when that bassoon player sort of like just double like
Yeah. Which is
like,
a
there
super
you
cool
go.
sound. I mean, that's just so unique. I just can't think of... It's hard pushed to find a sound like that for anybody else.
I know, and I came across him on like the second Library Archive album that I did, and I didn't use him for I do this. I'm terrible at this. A new person comes in and it's like, wow, bassoon player. Oh man, we're going to have to do loads of stuff and speak to him for 5 years. And then, but when he came into this, I'm like, wow, you are really good. And he did the baritone on the Low Orbit as well.
Right, okay.
And he's basically like he's a low end wind sort of specialist.
Yeah.
But he didn't have a bass clarinet that went down to what C is it? The lower ones.
Right, okay.
So and that young kid came along and did it. He was great. But I find it really interesting listening to baritone players because they all have their own flavour. The way they... Like, have you ever heard Rob Mitchell play baritone?
No.
Abstract orchestra.
Yeah.
My God, that guy on baritone is an utter machine.
Brilliant.
I think it's because he's so rhythm section orientated. Mm-hmm. So his baritone playing is just like
tight, yeah.
So tight, so
rhythmic.
Aggressive, and and Richard's baritone playing. I love his baritone playing. Something like, I know this guy's not a baritone player, but a bit like Plas Johnston, tenor player. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of got like more of a 50s kind of like laid back quality to it, when he plays. Yeah. And then this guy, Lawrence.
Wasn't Plas the Pink Panther sound?
Yeah, he's the Pink Panther.
Mr. Pink Panther for those
Rich
of you who don't
does
know.
an amazing kind of like Plas Johnson. His tenor playing. Again, it blows my mind, how one instrument can sound so different.
Yeah.
Like, where like Richard is amazing at all of them, but one thing he does again that other people do really, but I find it difficult to find a good alto player.
Right.
Richard's alto playing is, his sound on an alto is just fucking really grabs you. And I say that, but Tony on an alto as well.
Yeah.
They're completely different alto players.
Yeah, I bet.
Like Tony's a lot cleaner as an alto player. He's a lot more kind of like leaning towards late 70s, 80s. Whereas Richard is just like, again, 50s, 60s, very, because his dad had a sound system. His dad was a musician. Richard grew up like playing from a really young age, and he knew about Ethio jazz when he was a kid
Wow.
because his dad was really into it.
Right.
So like Richard's got this kind of leaning toward, his alto playing's amazing. It really is amazing, especially with the kind of vibrato, the way he uses vibrato and sound on that.
Great.
As well. But yeah, this guy Lawrence, his baritone playing's like slap bang in between like Richards and Rob's. And it had, again, I was like, wow, listen to that sound. He had a really nice old baritone as well. I can't remember what it was, but it was a nice one.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's good. And again, so subtly different. And I was like, wow, I really enjoyed that.
These are the colours that you paint with, aren't they, Neil? And that's your producer head, isn't it? Remembering everybody's
what the
nuances, so that when you suddenly think, actually, this track needs that and not that.
That person.
These are the brushstrokes that you paint with, aren't they? The musicians that are around you.
I really enjoy getting the vocalists on that track as well.
Yes.
That was a surprise.
It's lovely, yeah. It's great, yeah. Again, it's just that unimaginable amount of work and organising to get all these people in just to do little, relatively small little additional
little
pieces.
bits.
But it's that attention to detail that, that pays off, I think. It makes a difference between an album and a long-lasting album people still listen to.
I hope it does. I feel like it does. I feel like it's going to be people are going to listen to it or are going to want to get... There's a lot on it, isn't there? There's a lot of material in the sense of...
It's got depth, isn't it? That's what you want.
Ticks a lot of boxes.
You want an album that's got a continuity to it, that doesn't sound like a compilation, but has lots of shade and light and colour in it. You know what I mean? That somehow sounds like a body of work without sounding like repetitive,
Yeah.
And that's really hard. That's a really hard balance to get. So it sounds like a block of something that's now and in that moment, but at the same time within each track there's difference.
Yeah.
There's light and shade and there's interest and it stimulates you intellectually as well as musically, and that you have lots of kind of things you can go back to and listen to and find a different thing each time you play it. I mean, that's the perfect scenario, isn't it? It's that kind of, every time I listen to it I hear something different, and that's just hard detail and just good songwriting and textures and quality, isn't it? The quality of the recording, quality of the musicians, quality of the range, quality of the writing, and the takes time.
Yeah,
it doesn't always work, but it takes time, But hopefully that's what we got.
It's what we got, and I think it works.